Hello, good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dr. Oronana, aka Dr. Paul, and today I want to share a very significant lesson with you. Now, by way of a background, I actually had a very eventful childhood, right from when I was young in my primary school days, and then up until I got to the secondary school and finished. And so there were a number of things that happened in my life, which to me, I felt they were normal and that I didn't see them as, well, they were just part of my life. And so what are some of these things that happened? Now, as a child, one of the things that happened to me as a child was that I started reading without being taught how to read. Okay? I don't know whether it's a common experience, but I think that was quite uncommon. But aside from that, by the time I got into primary school, I remember an incident that happened when I was in primary 1. Now, what happened was that I could read because I started reading right from when I was in nursery school. I started reading from when I was in nursery school. So, of course, when I entered primary 1, I could read. And I was the only one in the whole of that class that could read. Now, I remember something that happened one day. I was in the class, and then my form teacher took me and carried me to primary 6 class. Now, what I didn't know then was that there had been an argument among the teachers, because the primary 6 pupils in my school, in my primary school, the English reader, the new chapter they were to read, nobody in the class could read it. And so my form teacher, what happened was that she was telling a co-teacher that she had a pupil in her class, primary 1, that could read. And they were all arguing, and so they brought me to the class. And of course, remember, I was just in primary 1, 6 years old, and these were people who were like 10 to 12 years old. And the whole of primary 6, nobody could read that reader. And so I was made to stand in front of the students, and then I remember the principal was there, and then they gave me their reader, and they told me to read the reader. Now, what happened was that I read the whole chapter, and everywhere went agog. Now, I was seeing everybody was talking, and I was just a small boy then, and I was just wondering, what is strange there? I didn't know I had actually caused trouble, because from that day, it was difficult for me to step outside to go and play during break time, because all of the primary 6 students, some of them will come and try to bully me. So I now had to start staying inside classroom during the times of break. Now, I said that to say this. I can go on and on with some of the events that happened in my life, but before I go on, give you a little bit more background, I want to say this, that don't think that if your life doesn't move in the chronological order that you thought or that you expected that it was going to go by, don't think that your life is in shambles or your life will not have significance. Because the meaning that you ascribe to the circumstances that happen to you in life is actually your power to be able to survive and to be able to thrive through circumstances. Now, so it is very important that you understand this, because many times, because when we grow up as children into teenagers and then into adulthood, we actually have imaginations of how we think our life will go and what we expect our life to become, and so on and so forth. We build a lot of images, which is not bad in themselves, but you see, as you go through life, a lot of things can happen. Life could happen to you. So how you handle those circumstances is very important. Now, I'm sharing this because we know in the last few years there's been increase in suicide cases in our world, all over the world. Talk about the pandemic that happened. Many people have taken their lives. Many people are depressed, all kinds of things. And so, but you need to understand this. And see, I think that I've gone through the things I went through so that I can learn these lessons to share with the world. Now, let me give another scenario. By the time I got to, of course, all through my primary school days, I was always taking first position. I think it was just once I took second position. There was a guy who came in primary 5, and then it just disrupted my whole my whole performance. He took first and I took second, and that was really a bad experience for me. And so I felt so bad. I remember when I took my result, I took second. It was so terrible. So now imagine from primary 1 in that primary school. From primary 1 and in primary school, we have first term, second term, third term. I was always taking first, primary 1, primary 2, primary 3, primary 4. And this guy came in primary 5. I think one of the terms he took first. I think after the first term he came, I took first. Then second term he took first. So I got angry and I made sure I beat him back. So now in primary 6, what happened was this. We did the primary 6 school living certificate examination. I think I was one of 2 persons in the whole of the local government that had a distinction in my primary 6 school living certificate exams. Then number 2, a writing competition was done, and I took first in the writing competition. I had the best handwriting in the whole of the local government. And then number 3, we did an interview after the primary school 6 living certificate, and I was first in that interview. And then number 4, the school we were choosing, the secondary school we were choosing, of all the people that choose that school, I was the only one that was admitted into that school. And so, you see, I had a lot of successes, and I didn't see them as well. I just see it as just normal. But let me say this. As I went along, by the time I got into the secondary school, that is what we call high school in other countries, they call it high school, I had also series of successes. You can go and verify. Okay, that's what obedience say. You can go and verify. So I had series of successes. Now, by the time I got to class 3, I told my dad that I wanted to do, the West African School Certificate, just like a national school certificate examinations. And I was in Form 3. Usually you do that in Form 5. Okay, and then